A very good day to all of you. So we are continuing with sentence or clause elements as there are more points to be discussed. So we'll be taking up today categories of adverbial, parts of speech, types of sentence structure, element realization types. So starting with adverbials, as you know, adverbials usually you must have done adverbials in lower classes also. Adverbials usually tell something extra about the action happening or the state described by the rest of the sentence. They give extra circumstantial information of various kinds, ranging from time and location to the speaker's uh, attitude. So we have the elements, the adverbials also elicit questions uh, like where to, from, when, how long, how often, how, in what manner. So adverbials, they elicit these questions and they provide answers to these questions. So have a look at this page. There are three examples of adverbial, adverbial of time, place, and manner. So right now we are concerned with just these three adverbials. There are more adverbials which we will be doing later. So an example is my brother is working today. This is the time adverbial. In all the three examples we have, my brother is working is the basic structure. And we can add the adverbials of time, place, and manner to this basic structure. So my brother is working today. Today is the time adverbial. My brother is working in the kitchen. This is a prepositional phrase. In is the preposition and the kitchen is noun phrase, and it stands as an adverbial of place. So the third one is my brother is working hard. So this shows the manner. My brother could also be working lazily, or he could be working slowly. It shows the manner how the brother is working. So here my brother is working hard. So we have three adverbials: adverbial of time, place, and manner. And as I told you that a sentence may have more than one adverbial. As you know, we have done the elements of sentence, five elements of sentence: subject, verb, object, complement, adverbial. And I told you that we do not have the sixth element, but any of these elements can be repeated in the same sentence. So here is a sentence. Have a look at the page again. Uh, a sentence where we have more than one adverbial. For example, the girl is now a student at a large university. So the girl is a student is a basic structure of the type SVC, with the pattern SVC, that is subject verb complement, with the adverb of time and place added to it. The girl is now, that is the adverbial of time, and at a large university, that shows the place adverbial of place. So the girl is now a student at a large university. More than one adverbial. We can also have three to four adverbials. And now, but we cannot have the sentence that the girl is now, although the pattern is SVA, which is a valid pattern, like the birds fly in the sky, the subject verb adverbial, but we cannot have the girl is now. Now let's take another adverbial carefully in the following example, and let's take it up with a dynamic verb. We have the sentence on this page, John searched the room, and we have a list of adverbs: carefully, slowly, noisily, sternly, without delay. All of these adverbs, they can go with this verb. John searched the room carefully, slowly, noisily, sternly, without delay. Perfect. We get a perfect sentence. Since search is a dynamic verb. Now we try to attach the same list of adverbs. So with a stative verb, like the verb be, the next example is the next sentence is the girl is now a student. uh, or another sentence is that John knew the answer. Now we'll try to we'll try to add these adverbs to these sentences, and let's see if we get sentences which are acceptable. So the girl is now a student carefully, slowly, noisily, sternly, without delay. We get types of sentences which are unacceptable. We cannot have this list of adverbials. with the verb be or with the verb know, that is with the stative verb. So there is a subclass of adverbials that go with verbs which allow progressive, the aspect of ongoing activity. These adverbials can be termed process adverbials. There are other adverbials which we'll be doing later on in the next few lectures. Now, adverbials can be realized by adverb phrases. Adverb phrases, that is, you can have one or two adverb that together is known as adverb phrase. So they can be realized by adverb phrases with adverb as head. They can be realized by noun phrases, by prepositional phrases, or by clauses which can be finite or non-finite. Now, examples of all the four that we have talked, example number one is John very carefully searched the room. So very carefully here is an adverb phrase. As you know, adverb modifies either the verb, adjective, or another adverb. So here carefully is an adverb, but it is being modified by very. So carefully is the head word, it's the head verb, head word. So John very carefully searched the room. This is being realized by adverb phrase. The second one is they make him the chairman every year. Now let's see the adverbial every year. So here year is a noun and being modified by every. So it is a noun phrase. So this satisfies our second one, that is the noun phrase. The third third example is she studied at a large university, and the third one is the prepositional phrase. The adverbial can also be realized by a prepositional phrase. Prepositional phrase, at is the preposition, preposition plus the noun phrase, a large university, that together makes it a prepositional phrase which serves as an adverbial of place. The fourth one is he grew happier when his friend arrived. Now he grew happier when his friend arrived. Now instead of a word or a phrase, we have a complete clause, when his friend arrived, which serves an adverbial. He grew happier when his friend arrived. Remember the definition of the clause. It has a subject and a verb. So when his friend arrived, that is, we have his subject is his friend, and arrived is the verb. So this is a clause, and it stands as an adverbial. So this is finite. Remember I told you finite verb which agrees with the subject in terms of number and person. It also carries a tense, mood. It shows voice and aspect. So this is a finite verb which shows the tense. Since arrived is not a past participle, there are three non-finite verbs that we have. That is the to infinitive, the ing participle, and the past participle, that is the ed participle. Here the arrived is not a participle, it shows the tense. So we have a finite clause. And compare this with the next one, that is seeing the large crowd, John stopped his car. Now seeing, ing, we have ing participle. Seeing the large crowd, John stopped his car. So this is a non-finite clause. So we said initially when we started with the adverbial realization of adverbials that they can be realized by adverb phrases, noun phrases, prepositional phrases, and clauses, finite as well as non-finite. Now we come to the next point, that is the parts of speech. Now, as you know, parts of speech, you must have done all this in lower classes. These are the basic things. Part of speech is a member of a class of words with shared grammatical characteristics that distinguish them from others. So parts of the structure realizing sentence elements are composed of units and known as parts of speech. So they are noun, adjectives, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, verbs, as you can see on this page. Nouns, you must have, you all know about nouns, adjective. I don't need to tell you much. Nouns, adjectives, adverbs, verbs. And the next class we have articles, demonstratives, pronouns, prepositions, conjunctions, and interjections, the last category. as you can see on this page. So these are the parts of speech. We will be doing about these parts of speech also later on. But right now, as I told you, this is just an overview of the elements of grammar. So we are doing it all these topics not in all that detail. So the third point is the types of sentence structure. So sentence structure, this we'll be doing with the help of this diagram. As you can see on this page, just have a look at this diagram. Uh, the, the, to the extreme left is the S, which stands for the sentence. A sentence may have either a verb as a stative verb or a dynamic verb. Then again, this stative verb is again divided into intensive and extensive, which may be transitive. Further, intensive verb can have either adverbial or a complement of subject. Here we have adverbial of place. Intensive verb, as I told you, that it is the verb which has a subject complement. Any verb which has a subject complement is an intensive verb. So intensive verb can have either adverbial, here adverbial of place, or a complement of subject. So we have just after this diagram, we have examples of each of this adverbial of place, complement of subject. So adverbial of place is example number 1. We'll be doing it after the diagram. So the next, as I told you, that sentence is divided into stative, intensive and extensive. So we have talked about intensive, that is, it can have either adverbial of place or complement of subject. Extensive may be transitive, which is sentence number 3. Then a sentence can also have a dynamic verb. A dynamic is again divided into intensive. So here intensive has a complement of subject, which is sentence number 4 or example number 4. And the second part of the dynamic work is extensive category. So extensive may be divided into monotransitive, that is, a verb may have just one object, a direct object, that is monotransitive. A verb may have two objects, ditransitive, that is, it can have a indirect object and a direct object. Or a verb may be complex transitive, that is, it can have a direct object and the complement of the object. Complement of object is possible only when we have an object. If the object is not there, the complement is the complement of the subject. The complement is either an attribute of the subject or the attribute of an object. But since we have an object over here, so we have what follows is the complement of the object. And the last, this is sentence number 7, and the last is intransitive verb, the verb which does not have any object. This is sentence number 8 or example number 8. Now let's come to the examples, but talking about the order of the elements in the sentence, order of the parts or the items in the sentence. Normally, whatever is familiar or given information, that comes early in the sentence, earlier on, and what is new information, that comes later on in the sentence, that comes at the end. Information which is of the that comes which is new, which is the latest, that we put normally at the end of the sentence, because it is given special prominence of and focus. So let's come to the examples that we were talking about, that we have talked about in this through this diagram. So number 1 is she is in London now. Now the first one, the intensive, just have a look at the diagram. The topmost, that is the intensive, is divided into adverbial of, it can have adverbial of place or complement of the subject. So number 1 is adverbial of place, that is, she is in London. That is, in London is adverbial of place. Of course, we can have another adverbial, like as you see in brackets, that is adverbial of time, that is now. She is in London now. So we have adverbial of place, plus we can also add adverbial of time. The next sentence is she is a student. Now here we have complement of the subject, because we have an intensive verb. She and the student are the same thing, and of course adverbials, like you see in the brackets, they can be added to this basic structure, SVC. She is a student in London now. The third one is not an intensive verb, it is extensive, and it has a direct object. So John heard the explosion. So we have John as the subject, heard as the verb, and explosion is the object. Now, explosion, and unlike the sentence that we just did before this, she is a student, which was a compliment, and here we have an object. So a test which to differentiate between a complement and an object is try to passivize that. Passivization is only possible when a sentence has an object. Otherwise, passivization is impossible with a complement. This is the difference. This is a classic test which differentiates a complement from an object. So John heard the explosion here. John is the subject, heard is the verb, and explosion, the explosion is the object. Of course, we can have all these adverbials as you see in your in brackets. That is from his office. That is adverbial of place. When he was locking the door, that is, it shows the point of time, adverbial of time. Number four, universities gradually became famous. Gradually is, of course, the adverbial in brackets, but the basic structure is universities became famous. This is also SVC, because famous is just an attribute of the subject universities. Remember, when we were talking about complement, when we started talking about the complement, when we defined the complement, we said that it was either an attribute of the subject or an object. So famous is an attribute of university. So this is a complement, and in place of the complement, we can have either the object, either the adjective, or a noun phrase. So here, in this case, we have a famous, that is adjective. We can have verbs, as you see in brackets, gradually, in Europe, during the Middle Ages. We have all three adverbials over here: adverbial of manner, adverbial of place, and adverbial of time. The number five sentence, the fifth one is, they ate the cake. Again, we have here the object. They ate the cake, subject, verb, and the object. So fifth one, this has just one object. So if a sentence has just one object, it is the verb which takes only one object, it is monotransitive. And we can add adverbials like hungrily, in that hut, that night. Again, it shows the first adverbial is the adverbial of manner. The second one is the adverbial of place, and the third one is the adverbial of time. Adverbials are in brackets, that is, they are optional. You can add adverbials to this basic structure SVO. They ate the cake. And number six is he offered her. We can have her, we can add her over here since it is a ditransitive example. He offered her some chocolates. So we have subject, verb. Her is an indirect object. Remember, I told you that indirect object is normally a recipient, someone to whom something is given. So he offered her some chocolates. Some chocolates is the direct object. Now, since this verb, we have two objects, it is a ditransitive verb. And since we have two objects, normally a sentence that has two objects can be passivized in two ways. So we have two objects. It can be passivized with some chocolates with a direct object, and it can be passivized with using indirect object. That is, she was offered some chocolates, or some chocolates were offered to her. Of course, we can, you see the adverbs in adverbials in brackets. They can be added to this structure, the basic structure SVOO. That is subject, verb, object, 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 indirect, object, direct, and adverbial of manner, adverbial of place, and before the consonant shows the time. Now, number seven, they elected him chairman. Now here, they elected him chairman. There is a subject, elected verb. Him is object, and chairman is the complement, because him and chairman, they are one and the same. So chairman is not an object, unlike number six, where her and some chocolates, that is the third element and the fourth element, are different entities. But in the seventh, we have the third element and the fourth element as the same entity. Again, the seventh one, we can passivize this sentence only in one way because we have only one object, unlike the sixth one where it was possible for us to passivize it in two ways. So number seven, they elected him the chairman, him being the object, he was elected the chairman. We cannot passivize uh, uh, using the chairman, which is the complement. And in the brackets, you see the adverbials without argument, that is how, answers how he was elected, where he was elected, and when he was elected, that is adverbials answers answer how, uh, when, where, and when. That is adverbial of manner, adverbial of place and time. The last one is the train had arrived. The last example is an example of intransitive verb, that is the verb which does not have an object. So the train had arrived, subject plus verb. Had, of course, is an auxiliary. Arrived is the main verb. So we just have the subject and verb. We can add the adverbials quietly. At the station, quietly again is the adverbial of manner. At the station, place. And before we notice it, that is the time. Now, after this, we come to element realization types. That is, sentence elements can be realized by linguistic structures of very different form. That is, it can be realized by either a word or a phrase or a clause. The verb element is, of course, always a verb phrase, which can be finite or non-finite. This we have already talked about, finite or non-finite. And the verb phrase, actually, it can have, before we come to the main verb, it can have, before the main verb, there can be 2 to 3 auxiliaries, helping verbs. So that entire verb phrase. The three types of non-finite verbs are to infinitive, ing participle, and the past participle, that is the ed participle. Now let's have a look at some more examples, like Mary wanted to be a student at that university. Now, to be a student at that university is a to infinitive clause that we have here. So Mary wanted. Mary is the subject, wanted is the verb, and to be a student at that university is the direct object, which has its own internal structure. We have also talked about this clauses which have their own internal structure. So be is a verb, a student is complement of the subject, at that university is an adverbial. So these are the examples of the non-finite verbs. So the first example is the to infinitive. And the second one is carefully searching the room, John found a ring. So again, carefully searching the room, although they all act as adverbial. No, the first one acts as an object. This one acts as an adverbial. Carefully searching the room, John found a ring. Now, carefully is an adverbial. Searching is a verb. That is, this is an ing participle, and the room is the object direct. With this entire thing is an adverbial of the sentence. John found a ring. So the pattern is A S V O. Adverbial, subject, verb, object. Now, again, we have the non-finite is ing. Remember, I told you at the beginning that we have three non-finites, that is the to infinitive, the ing participle, and the past participle, that is the ed participle. The last example is made the chairman. Every year he was very busy. So made the chairman, here we have a past participle, that is made the chairman. Every year, made verb, the chairman, complement of the object. Every year is adverbial. This entire thing stands as an adverbial. And the sentence main clause is he was very busy, that is SVAC, that is subject, verb, adverbial, and complement. So this the pattern is ASVAC. Now, both finite and non-finite verbs can have either just one word. This I already told you. Both finite and non-finite verbs can either have just one word or more than one word, in which case there is a main head verb preceded by one or more auxiliary verbs. This we have already talked about. Now here are some examples of, have a look at this page. There are examples of some finite verbs. We have already talked about the non-finite verb, the three non-finite verbs that we just did. Uh, and here are examples of some finite verbs. And the finite, non-finite difference is actually, the main difference is that verb that agrees with the subject in terms of number and person. That is, the verb changes according to the subject if there is a change in number and person, but it also carries tense. A finite verb shows tense, mood, voice, and aspect. Non-finite does not show this mood and tense, but it is capable of showing voice and aspect. Now have a look at these examples of finite verbs. Now, number one, we have he had given the girl an apple. So this is a finite verb. It is past tense. It is not past participle. It shows tense. It is an example of finite verb. The second one, this will make the difference clearer to you. He has been challenged rudely. Now here, as I was telling you, that the verb changes according to the subject in terms of number and person. Now, normally it is the first part of the verb phrase which is finite or non-finite, which carries the tense. So here he has been challenged rudely. Now, if we were to change he to a plural form they, so what will happen to the verb has? They have, will it be has, or whether we have to put have in place of has? Of course, have. They have been challenged rudely. Now, see, the first part of the entire verb phrase has, it changes. So this is the thing which is finite, which carries tense. The other parts that is being challenged, they remain unchanged. But has will change to have. Now, if we change it to person, first person, instead of he, we have I. Again, we'll have to put have. I have been challenged rudely. So this is the difference between finite and non-finite verb. The third one is he may be growing happier. Again, showing tense. Growing is not a ing participle. It is a verb progressive. He may be growing happier. This is again a case of finite verb. Now let's come to the non-finite verb. Now, having been challenged rudely in the streets, John was angry. Now this is an example of non-finite verb. Having been challenged rudely in the street, John was angry. Now, having talked about finite and non-finite verbs, now a sentence like we say we did that a verb phrase may have 2 to 3 auxiliaries before the main verb. Likewise, a sentence can also have a clause as a subject. A sentence can be indeterminately long. Let's have a look at this example that she answered the question correctly pleased him. Now, in place of a word or a phrase, we have an entire clause as a subject. That she answered the question correctly. Clause, of course, remember the definition of clause. It has a subject and a verb. This clause has its own internal structure. The entire thing stands as subject, and placed is the verb, and him is the object. So this is a case of a sentence that has clause as a subject. And as I told you, subjects can be indeterminately long with complex structure, having a noun as a head and preceded by other words such as article and adjective, or another noun followed by a prepositional phrase or a relative clause. Now, one more example. The new gas stove in the kitchen, which I bought last month, has a very efficient oven. Now, the new gas stove, the head word is stove. This noun has a pre-modifiers. The new, we have an article, we have an adjective, we have a noun which pre-modifies the head word stove. Then we have the post modifiers, that is in the kitchen, prepositional phrase, and which I bought last month as a relative clause. And we have all these elements in the sentence before we come to the verb has. So the new gas stove in the kitchen, which I bought last month, has a very efficient oven. So we were talking about indeterminately long subject with complex structures. So this is very complex, and the verb comes much later. Has a very efficient oven. Even the object that it is pre-modified. The head word is oven, and it's pre-modified, are very efficient. Likewise, we can have subject complements, direct objects, and object complements. They can be also long. They can have similar structures, the same range of structures as subjects. And subject and complements can also have adjective phrases instead of noun phrases. Now, an exception is indirect objects, which have limited possibilities. Mostly they have noun phrases, like we did this example. He had given the girl an apple. The girl is an indirect object. The girl, normally an indirect object, is a recipient. So he had given the girl an apple. So we can just have, normally we can have noun phrases in for indirect objects. They cannot be realized by that clauses, like direct objects and subjects. There are more points which need to be discussed in this. Which we will be doing in the next lecture. This is all for today. In the next lecture, we'll be doing proforms. We'll be talking about various sentence processes. We'll be talking about closed system items. We'll be talking about open class items, and then we'll be concluding the chapter before we move on to the next chapter. So thank you very much.